Ignorance of the law is no excuse. The Wikipedia definition of ignorance of the law is a legal principle holding that a person who is unaware of a law may not escape the liability for violating that law merely because he or she was unaware of its content. In the United States, exceptions to this general rule are found in cases such as Lambert versus California and Cheek versus United States. Looking further under explanation, the rationale of the doctrine is that if ignorance were an excuse, a person charged with criminal offenses or a subject of a civil lawsuit would merely claim that he or she was unaware of the law in question to avoid liability. Even though the person really does know what the law in question is, thus the knowledge imputes knowledge of all laws to all persons within the jurisdiction, no matter how transient. Even though it would be impossible, even for someone with substantial legal training, to be aware of every law in operation in every aspect of a state's activities, this is the price paid that willful blindness cannot become the basis of evidence that would help the defense. So, having said that, let's quickly look at one of the cases and dig a little bit deeper. Okay, so Lambert versus California, which is 355 US 225, it's a Supreme Court case regarding whether ignorance of the law can be used as a defense. Now, this is the circumstances. Ms. Lambert was convicted of forgery, a felony in Los Angeles. She was unaware that a Los Angeles city ordinance required that she register if she remained in the city for more than 5 days. Since she failed to register when she was arrested on suspicion of committing another offense, she was convicted for failure to register. As Lambert was not allowed to use her lack of knowledge as a defense, she was convicted. Lambert appealed her case, arguing that she had no knowledge that she had to register her name and that convicting her would deprive her of due process under the 14th Amendment. Now, this case had a decision where the Supreme Court reversed Lambert's conviction, holding that knowledge or probability of knowledge of a law is required to convict someone of a notice offense. In an opinion by Justice Douglas, he wrote, where a person did not know of the duty to register and where there was no proof of the probability of such knowledge, he may not be convicted consistently with due process. So in the end, if someone was to claim ignorance of the law and they believe that fighting it, especially all the way to the Supreme Court, as Ms. Lambert did, win their case or overturn their conviction, the circumstances of the law that the person would be convicted under has to be extreme. So to sum this up, after reading this case in its entirety, what the Supreme Court justices decided, if you break a law that is not commonly known by the general public, and it's an extreme circumstance as in Mrs. Lambert's case, there's a possibility that it violates your constitutional rights and you may be able to go after it. Now, the reason why I bring this case law up is because if you actually find yourself in an ignorance of the law situation as a defense, the first thing you're going to do is do research and find case law that can support your argument. This Supreme Court case that somewhat defines what the system is going to look for if you bring an ignorance of the law defense shows that the Supreme Court is going to look to see if the general public would be totally unaware of that ordinance or law, and the situation would have to be extreme where it deprives you of your constitutional right. If someone finds themselves in that extreme situation, then they may be able to use an ignorance of the law defense.